Welcome back, everyone, to Can You Survive? Tides of War. We are moments away from crowning a winner at the final Tribal Council. Very shortly, we will see our final three contestants come on into the Tribal Council area where they will plead their case in front of a jury of their peers. All of them hoping to take it home after 5 days of intense competition here at Can You Survive? And the players are going to slowly file into Tribal Council so they get their close-up moment as soon as I flip the camera around, which always takes forever. And here we have them, Ale, Dylan, and Drew.
We have Katie, Dan, Zoe, Louie, Molly, Meg, Alicia, Kai, Cam, and Kevin voted out at our last Tribal Council. All right. Congratulations again, you three, for making it as far as you can in this game. As I mentioned at the last Tribal Council, the power in this game has now shifted to the jury. What we're going to do is a classic Survivor Final Tribal Council. You will have a chance at opening statements. Each of our jurors is going to ask you a question or a small statement. You'll have quick closing statements, and we'll get to the vote. Good? Drew, by virtue of winning the last immunity, you will get to decide the opening order, and the closing order will go in reverse of that, okay? All right.
Thanks, Drew.
Ale, with that said, you are on the clock with your opening statement to the jury.
Can I start?
Yep.
Cool. Hi, jury. I'm really excited to be able to talk to all of you finally. During this Tribal Council, I promise to be straightforward, honest about everything. I think this is the point where we need to be honest about our games, own up to everything, and I'm excited and ready to do that. Coming into this game as a bet, as I've said multiple times, I played Season 1. It didn't go great. And I've done 2 games of this size before, right? So part of my preparation coming into this was talking about what have I done wrong? Why had I not been able to be immersed before? Why had I not been able to reach the potential that I felt like I had? So I decided to ask past players that have played with me, what happened? Why was I the vote? What can I do better? Because I wanted to improve myself. I believe a lot in self-improvement. I believe a lot in getting better from different experiences. And I thought that that was a really important part in me coming here. I got a lot of really great advice that I applied to this. The day before, while I was in my hotel waiting for this anxiously, my friend Phil, who played with me in my last game, called me, and he said, I want you to know that you have permission to play this game. You are always too loyal, you're too straightforward, and you lead with your morals a lot, and that doesn't allow you to play the game at the fullest. And I need you to understand that you can't do that, and you should be doing that. You cannot just, they're my friends, I'm never gonna vote for them or do anything like that, because that is why you tend to be an easy boot at some point, right? I talked to my boyfriend as well, who is a really important person for me, and he was also like, I'm not gonna stop loving you. I want you to understand, you can do whatever you need to do, right? Go there, play hard, stop being self-conscious. I told a couple of you last night, I almost didn't play this game because I was so nervous coming back and being I was supposed to be the only CYS at the beginning until beautiful Cam was added. And I was like, I'm taking this spot and there's so many amazing human beings who could do on this second chance. And what if I waste that? What if everyone's you just wasted everyone's time, right? You went out so fast. And I was really nervous, but then I had a flight, I had raised money. People talked to me, they're like, you can do this, you genuinely can do this. And I think a lot of it was me fighting my insecurities coming in and telling myself, I can do that. I can play this game while still being genuine. I can still be myself by, yes, I'm going to have to lie. Yes, I'm going to have to do things that maybe don't align with who I am as a human being outside of this game, but I can separate that person off from this game. And I think I was able to do that a lot. And I was able to also find myself with little acts like making sure that I was taking care of everyone as people. Like, oh, I'm just gonna grab your water bottle. I'm gonna like give you this and like take look care of people that made me feel look more like myself while playing this game. And I found myself being able to do that and being able to generate really genuine relationships with everyone in this game that I feel like, regardless of how this vote goes or anything, like are going to continue after this game while still allowing myself to actually play this game. Um, Something that the pre-merge for me was a little bit of like, I just wanted to make the merge. That was my biggest objective. So I kind of allowed things to, like, I was in good position the entire pre-merge. But I think I allowed people to kind of like dictate things a little bit more because I wanted to make it to that stage. Once we hit on the merge, like even a little bit before we merge, I decided that I needed to the first few people that needed to leave this game were the people that I felt like I didn't have a big path forward with, right? Um, I started pitching Katie even before, right? Like I liked Katie, but I didn't see where me and Katie's game aligned because we hadn't talked game before. So I pitched Katie to I think everyone at that point. I told everyone like I think it should be Katie. I think it should be Katie. And it was
1
like,
minute
oh,
warning, Ollie.
no. Sorry to say. And then afterwards, Dan and I had started becoming like close, but I didn't see our games either. And I was like, I need to get rid of the two people who, for my game, I felt were incredibly threatening in the sense of not being able to work together and leave more people who I felt were more willing to work with me and who I had cultivated that with a little bit more. Um, oh my god, that minute warning just fucked me up. Um, Throughout this game, I kind of wasn't really in danger unless I'm completely delusional, which I'm sure you all will let me know. The only time that I think I might have been in danger, which I'm sure you will let me know, is during the Molly boat. Other than that, my name might have come up. I kind of didn't hear about it. But like I wasn't there. Right? Like I that boat, and then when Kevin left were the two times where I could have been voted out. I think all the other times I secured my relationships enough to be safe, to have enough wiggle room. I made enough alliance and enough relationships where people wanted me in the game and saw a path forward with me. And I think that's really impressive in terms of how this game is. Thank you. And I look forward to your questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Ollie. Okay, Dylan, your chance now to speak to the jury.
Hi. Okay, so when I agreed to do this game, I was terrified. And I hadn't been camping in 12 years, and when I had done that, I only camped for 2 nights, and it was nice. And then I got here, and I made fire on the first night, and then I went on to make fire 6 times for the camp. And in fact, it became a point of conversation when people were coming for me that I'm good at fire and is there going to be fire at Final Four? So I went from being somebody who is like a city kid that knows nothing to somebody who was suddenly like somewhat threatening for his like wilderness skills, which was insane to me. And then I won the first immunity, the first individual immunity of the season, in a game that was intensely physical and had all 12 of us playing. And that was when I realized that I could be perceived as a threat. And I'm gonna like transition a little bit back to pre-merge a little bit and like what I came into this game, how I came into this game wanting to play. I'm a social person. I have relationships that I feel are personal with most all of you on the jury. And I also had game relationships with most all of you on the jury. But I knew coming into a game that was set up with veterans and rookies that there would be divisions in each. And so my goal in early game was to suss out where those divisions could potentially be, which I found out when we tribe swapped a sense of where those divisions were. And that gave me enough ability to be able to figure out how I wanted to play this game. And after I won that individual immunity, Alicia came up to me and she said, you know, you and Dan, the rookies love you guys back there, and they think that you guys are the underdogs to win. And in that moment, 2 things became clear to me. It became clear to me that I needed to vote Dan out, and it became clear to me that I could make Alicia my enemy, which was something that I was deliberately looking for. I was looking for, because I was playing a social game and I was trying to work with as many people as possible, as openly and honestly as possible. But in order to do that without my game collapsing in on itself, I needed somebody who would come after me eventually, so that A, I could test my alliances, and B, I could also take the heat off of myself of like being an intensely social player. And so I worked overtime throughout to make sure that Alicia stayed in this game, because it wasn't even so much that she was a shield for me, but I knew that there would be a point where she came after me. And so I worked overtime and I built my relationships while also securing. I wouldn't be here today without these two, who I never wrote their names down. They never wrote my names down any single time. Um, and the only time anybody ever voted for me, they went out, and it was also the time that I was the most comfortable sending my name out, because I knew that the trust had been established. I knew I didn't want to play a game where I was finding idols. I wanted to play a game where I didn't need idols. And in order to create relationships, I also wanted to play a game where I got to play a little bit of everybody's game. And in doing so, and in playing the games with people, you know, like for example, like Ty, you and I had a sort of fun in-game rivalry, which I was like, oh, we can use that to play with each other and be honest. So I knew where you stood. Meg, you and I instantly connected, and we had a really strong bond, and were really there for each other right up until the vote that I wasn't in on. I will say to that though, utilizing my connections, I did know that Kevin had the extra vote early on in the game, and that the last vote he was using it on would have been the one to vote you out. And then there were like pivotal, all of this like cross alliances essentially that I had in order to maintain my game, and in order to make sure that people were coming after each other and not coming after me.
1 minute warning, Dylan.
Yeah, it led to one of my most critical decisions in this game, which was voting out Louis. Which was a turning point, because it was a place where there was a split vote and it was down to me. And that was the time in this game when I was the most emotional. And that was also sort of when the next phase of my game began. And not that these were like pre-planned phases by any means, but it was when I realized that I could play with my emotions, and that my emotions weren't scary and weren't dangerous for me, and were actually something that were like quite an asset to the game that I wanted to play, but also to the person that I wanted to be. I didn't want to come in here and be a snake. I didn't want to come in here and be, I wanted to come in here and meet real people and play a real game and foster real relationships. And I feel like I have those with people, and I'm coming out of the game, regardless of this, with that, and with also the knowledge now that I know that I guess I know that I can survive. I can do this. I can live without food. I can get over my body dysmorphia to win a fucking challenge. I can I can I can play the game.
Please wrap up, Dylan.
And yeah, so that's where I'll leave there, and I'm excited for any questions or statements you all may have.
Great. Thank you, Dylan. All right, we'll move on to Drew. It is your turn to address the jury.
Hi guys. I came into this game telling my friends and family what I was up to, and all of them looked at me like I was insane. They were like, why would you do this? You're so scared of spiders. You've never like spent a day outside in your life. I'm such an anxiety, fear-filled person that doing something like this pushed me so far out of my comfort zone. It was truly only my love of Survivor that brought me out here. It just seemed like an experience that I didn't want to pass up. And I'm kind of in an era of my life where I'm trying to undo a lot of the flaws that I grew up with. Like I said, I grew up very anxious. I was a very anxious kid. I get socially awkward in large situations, and this plunged me straight into some of my biggest fears, the wilderness and this intense social game. And I feel like I still was able to find a way to thrive. Like I was telling a lot of you, one of my biggest fears is also the ocean. So I got my scuba diving license, and this was sort of my way to combat some of my other fears. And I feel like I checked a lot of boxes and also learned a lot of really incredible things about myself. When it came to the relationships in the game, I knew that I had the survivor knowledge to thrive. I was confident in that. But what I wasn't sure about was, did I have the social capabilities to make relationships and alliances and moves and all of these things that you have to do to win the game? I mean, we all respect the game. We all know that you have to do these things. So when I was in those moments of panic, what I tried to remind myself was that I came out here as myself. These people want to meet me. So I tried to just be myself with each of you. I really focus on those individual conversations. While I may not have thrived in a large group setting, I feel like I was really good at talking to each person, even people that I didn't end up working with, and at least entertaining some sort of working relationship. When it would fail over and over again, no matter how awkward it was, I was like, maybe it'll work this time. And sometimes it felt like I was lying to these people. And I want you to know, you never know when things are going to go wrong in this game and when an unexpected vote will happen. And I wanted to have as many options as possible. So I was always being genuine when I was talking to you about wanting to work with you. What I found later in the game was that my relationships were becoming very beneficial, especially at the merge. I was hearing things from other people about people across tribe lines, like saying, I feel so good about Drew, like I want to work with Drew. And the issue was, it was almost putting me in a dangerous spot because there were people on all sides, all tribes, trying to pull me in. I know that Zoe said that a lot of the Blues really liked me. From my relationships with Ty and Louie, I knew that your side and our swap tribe wanted to work with me. And then I also had the rookies. So I felt like I was one misstep away from like blowing up my spot and everybody being like, what the hell, Drew? I thought you were with us. And I feel like I navigated that without a lot of people really knowing that I had my hands in all these pots because I didn't have to utilize all of them. The first vote was Katie, then it was Dan. Those were unanimous. I tried to lay low. I didn't want people to know that I was receiving all of this information. And the point where I utilized it was when we voted out Zoe. There was an alliance that was tried to form between the blue and the orange tribes. And for me, that was the point where I would have to draw a line. I would have to vote out Ty and Louie, who were two of my closest allies, and basically say, okay, I'm in it with these people. And I just wasn't ready to do that. So I pushed so hard for Zoe, and there was resistance, and then Alicia's fake idol, and Zoe ended up going home. And you were one of my close allies, but you were the only blue that could go that tribal without getting blood on my hands. So it's what I had to do, and it allowed me to keep a lot of options in the game that I feel like I was able to utilize. I think another subtle thing that I was able to do in this game is information management. I don't know if it's really acknowledged in this era of Survivor that we're in, but people were spilling the beans all the time. I mean, everybody was telling everybody everything. And I tried to soak more in than I was giving out. And when I was telling you something, it was always very intentional. I mean, I understand the danger of me saying something and it leaking and getting out. And I'm sure some things I said leaked out and hurt me, but I feel like for the most part, I never really said anything that like totally screwed me up. I mean, I think most people felt good with me, or at least there was a vote, we were on the wrong side and we understood where we stood. Um, and I also voted correctly every single tribal. There was sort of this push and pull in my game. Sometimes I would push, like with the Zoe vote, and other times I would pull back. Louis, you were one of my allies, but I knew that that split tribe scenario was not good for me. It just wasn't, and I had to let you go to keep my relationship with Dylan and to try to work with Meg and with you, Cam. So I knew when to push forward and I knew when to step back in order to stop myself from becoming a threat. And I feel like I was able to successfully do that. I leaned on my relationships when I needed them. These people kept me in the game. It was a 3-2 vote. They could have taken me out and they chose to keep me here. I'm not going to sit here and act like I did it all myself. I relied on my relationships and all of you.
Great. Thank you to each of our finalists for explaining their game to the jury. I'll now turn it over to you so you can help address our finalists. We're going to go in reverse order. So Katie, please join me for your question.
Awesome. Well, first and foremost, on behalf of the whole jury, congratulations. Some people say that more strongly than others, but there's a couple of things as a jury we want to openly say to the three of you. First and foremost, especially in the last couple of votes, it's been a lot of lovey-dovey, kumbaya, peace, rainbow, love. Without being way too aggressively blunt about it, that ends now. This is now a business meeting. This is when you guys really need to step up, own your actions, essentially throw each other under the bus if you have to. But what we really need clarity about is what are your moves, what are the things you did, and not, pull the facade away of the lovey-dovey happy family, because we know it's there. We know you love us. We know you love each other, but it's not helpful for our decision. Switching to myself though, truthfully, it's a completely clean slate. I didn't work with any of you guys. You didn't want to work with me either, and you also all had my blood on your hands. So I have been especially a sponge my whole time at Ponderosa, serving as queen. I've learned a lot of information from the jury members, so take that as you will. They've been very honest with me. I've been asking very insightful questions. So if there's any type of damage control you need to do throughout your time to get my vote, please do it. But my main question and how I would like to vote in this season is really I want a winner that represents our season as a whole. It's not just your individual game, but who's the person to represent all of us and not just the people in this tribal now, all 24 of us in the season. So my question to each of you is, what would you say the theme of our season is and how do you represent it? So you can start with
Please try to limit yourselves to about 45 seconds to a minute, okay?
You can just go down the line. Yeah.
Oh, so thank you. Where am I starting? Thanks, Katie. Thank you for the question and thank you for the telling us what to do. Thanks. Why can I start? The theme of our season. I think the theme of our season is this weird pull between being super open and being super cagey. I think there were parts of the season where it was so secretive and everyone was like whispering, but there was so much openness within the season. I think it's not about rookie versus vets. I think it's about respecting strong gameplay, respecting social game. I think we all came here, like I know you just said like lovey-dovey, but I think we just came here for the love of the game to respect each other. I think part of that theme has to be respect because I think we all played with respect towards one another. Um, yeah, but it was ultimately it was a war, right? Like it was about maneuvering those relationships and maneuvering those social connections in order to give yourself more. The people who didn't have strong enough connections socially were the ones that kept falling through, right? Like didn't make it to the jury, went early and stuff like that. So I think it was about social relationships and managing social capital as well as your threat level and using those social
Please try to wrap up that way.
yeah, thanks. Using that social connections to get a step forward.
I think the theme of our season was leaps of faith. Starting with Meg, pre-jury Meg, who was pulling cucumbers out of the ground and having us eat it at night one, to Meg, other Meg M, putting her full trust in the game in me and me making sure that she was safe that night for the vote. To when me, Louie, Meg, and Molly were willing to go to rocks if we did not win that last group immunity challenge, and we did win. And I think that I exemplify that leap of faith because I was somebody that people put a lot of their trust in, that people put a lot of their faith in, and I held it for as long as I could. And then to answer sort of part one of the being business about it, I had a solid one-to-one alliance with Drew, with Louie, with Cam, with Kevin. And when we got to the end phase of this game and I saw that there were business meetings, I saw that there were challenges, winning a lot, business meeting. I knew that I couldn't sit here with Cam or with Kevin, both for their relationships with the jury and also for their ability to play this game and play it really hard on a challenge level. And so I did those betrayals, and I tried to damage control it as much as I could. But at the end of the day, it was better to do damage and take the leap of faith that I can have that damage and have it here, and manage it here now, as opposed to not taking that swing.
I think the theme of this season was we may have lost the battle, but we can still win the war. It's undeniable that the rookies and vet conflict was like a big part of the season, whether we liked it or not. It's how we started, it's how we spent the first couple days, and that's how the season went for me, at least. You know, we were constantly being thrown in situations where you may have to concede. You know, war is very tactical. You can't always be on the offensive. Sometimes you have to be on the defensive. And I did that several times, like voting out Louis, voting out Ty, making the calculated decision to cut my close allies, hoping that these people would be the ones to get me to the end. When I saw that somebody was no longer going to help me get to the end, specifically you, Ty, because I loved you and I wanted to work with you, but I knew you weren't going to be able to get to the end with me. I was able to cut those people and go with the smarter plan and win the war, which is what I hope to do tonight.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we'll bring up Dan.
Congratulations. So the perception of the jury is that you guys, none of you were really driving a lot of the moves in the game, that the drivers of those moves are all sitting over here. So my question to all of you is, what is a move that you drove, that you maybe single-handedly were responsible for, or that you were in the driver's seat for?
Choose who starts.
Let's go from this end.
Yeah.
Woodrow.
I mean, it's hard because there was so much chaos. I mean, I don't know if anybody can point to a singular move that they alone solved without the help of other people. But if I had to pick one that I had a lot of influence on, it would be the Zoe vote. That was a point where there was orange and blue coming together to form an alliance. And Kevin and I pulled each other aside and we were like, is this something that we see as beneficial for us? And the answer was no. And when we first went to people like Dylan and Molly and other people, we were getting like a little bit of, let's just vote Alicia. Like, Alicia's such a big threat. She needs to go. And we were like, but Zoe going is better for our game. And then when she played the fake idol, it was sort of like this whisper, crazy live tribal. And I felt like I was really trying to get in people's ears to be like, it has to be Zoe this vote. Not because of the fake idol. That was sort of just a smokescreen to be like, for our games, it needs to be Zoe. And I think that was a huge turning point for me. And I can't say that I single handedly did that, it would be crazy, but I can say that I really pushed it as hard as I could, and that's what I wanted to have happen.
I think a vote that I drove was the Louis vote. It was when we were 5-5, and I knew that Louis and Drew wanted to go with Meg, and I knew that Cam and Meg wanted to go potentially with Louis, but I think truly anybody that would prevent them from going home, and I knew I couldn't lose Drew. Well, Drew had one immunity, so I literally couldn't lose Drew, actually. But the choice then in that moment was how I was going to play the rest of my game. I was already aware that people were sussing out Cam and Meg as working together, and that I had sort of flown under the radar of that alliance. In particular, me, Cam, flew really under the radar. And I had also flown really under the radar with my alliance with Louis, and uh, and Ale, and Kevin as a Latino alliance. And so the choice to vote out Louis was something that I did to set myself up tighter with Meg and Cam, knowing that they would be targeted before I would. Whereas if I took out Meg, I would be worried that I would then become the next person to be targeted there. So that was the decision. Yeah.
I said a little bit in my initial speech, but the votes for both you and Katie, I think, again, I think what Drew's saying, like, no one can take full responsibility, but I think I was really aggressive with those two moves at the beginning. With Katie, I said it before, I said it at the little feast, I kept saying it to people, I kept whispering, I was very like, this should be the move, this should be the move. And then with you, Dan, it was the same thing. Like, the first thing that I said when someone approached us, like, let's do Dan. And like, kept doing that to the point where I told you, I'm voting for you, I'm not changing that. I was like, I'm sorry if this is rude, but like, I don't want you to waste your time. Go save yourself somewhere else because I'm not changing that, right? I felt confident in my relationships to be able to push that and to be able to push Katie. After that, I felt like I had gotten rid of the two biggest threats to my game in terms of my relationships, so I could step back a little bit more because I didn't want to continue to dictate things and make myself a really big target. I definitely tried to drive some of the Alicia votes as well, but those didn't work. So guess that doesn't count. But I mean, when Alicia went, like, I was also, I think Alicia and I had like a really cool relationship where we're like really good friends, but also kind of like rivals in the game in a little bit. So when it was finally chance, I was like, all right, cool. Like, it's the third time's the charm, right? But like, I definitely pushed those two votes at the beginning to set myself up for the rest of the game, where I knew that at that point, me being in danger will be very unlikely because I have set my relationship with every single other person to in a certain way that I think I'll have people at least protecting me from if my main came up, which I know happened at some points. People will be like, "Nope, I
All right,
didn't want
please
to do
wrap
that."
up.
Thank you. That was it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Dan.
All right, Zoe, come join us.
Hey, so it's feeling a little serious, and so a quick little anecdote on day one. I'm sure us veterans know that I completely forgot the saying rookie mistake, and so I said rookie move. I forget what I was talking about, but I said rookie move, and it kind of stuck. So I want to know from you guys, what was a moment in this game where you did something a little, maybe a little dumb, a little silly, that you think I would say, oh, that's a rookie move too? And I think it's only fitting that we start with the rookies, because you probably are more familiar with this, and then afterwards, Ale.
I can go first.
Okay.
Yeah, the split tribal. It was me, Dylan, Louie, Megan, Cam. I felt like that was a really bad group for me to be stuck with, which was why I was like, I really need to win immunity here. I felt very unsafe. But once we had talked, and I was like, okay, I think it might be Meg. I went to Meg and Cam and I said, like, listen, I'm going to vote for one of you. I'm so sorry. Like, I just want to be honest. And I was revealing more than I should have before the vote had had enough time to gain steam and it switched to Louis. And then I'm sitting there awkwardly with both of them still there, like, oh, you voted Louis. Like, what was all that about? And I had to do damage control. And that's obviously a rookie mistake. I should have kept my emotions inside and let the vote continue to develop before I went ahead and jumped the gun.
My my first rookie mistake was that I only brought two
It's rookie
t-shirts.
move.
Oh, sorry,
Rookie
right.
move.
Right.
Difference.
Well, my rookie mistake was bringing only two t-shirts and nothing else and freezing my ass off last night. I do think that rookie move for me, I think was sort of, honestly, I think it was being very like fire hungry early on, and then suddenly being like, oh wait, because I was trying to like, after I had won the immunity, I was like, I want to minimize myself, and then literally the next tribal, I think I like tossed your name, and then I was like, let's go Zoe, and then I had been making fire, and then I heard that around then, and I was like, oh no. So that was mine.
I think my rookie mistake, my rookie move, sorry, my bad. My rookie move might have been grabbing the idol when I grabbed it, right? I know it sounds really weird. I don't know where those boats were going, right? I generally don't. Like, part of me was like, I trust them, and the other part of me is like, oh, should I trust them, right? I think I got really paranoid, and I was like, what if someone else grabs it when I'm voting? I think I could have waited until after they voted and then played it just to know where that trust was, right? Like, I think I could have been patient and I could have trusted that no one else had noticed anything around travel because no one else was looking around. It might have as well been Molly, but I think that would have been a better read for me than just having that doubt afterwards of like, where are they going to go for me? When are they going to go for me? Because I think that affected a little bit of my game because I didn't know what would have happened because they had to do they had no options, right? Like I didn't give them an option at that point. And I think I could have used that information for my game.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, everyone.
Thank you, Zoe. Louis.
First off, I want to say that the Slug Lord sends his utmost congratulations to the three of you. I'm very happy to see the three of you sitting here. Playing with all three of you was so hugely and epically fun. The theme of this season was the Tides of War. And what I would like each of you to do is to identify and explain an event or move that you believe changed the tides in your favor to get you to sit where you are today. Ale?
Yeah. Sorry. An event that changed the tides of my game. As much as I hate to say it, Jorge leaving. I loved Jorge. It's no shock to anyone. I rooted for him like very openly. But I think Jorge leaving, I wanted Jorge there so bad for everything, but I think that allowed people to see how loyal I could be to someone and allowed people to be like, oh, this person is someone that is going to ride or die for other people, right? Like I think before it was like, oh, he's goofy, he's fun, but I think me rooting for Jorge so openly and so like I don't give a fuck if everyone cares. Like I want Jorge to come back. I allow people to be like, this is someone that can be a really good ally, right? I think it made people see the kind of person that I am, the kind of ally that I could be for someone. Um, and I think that really changed the perception from like, oh, he's fun, he's kind of cool to be around, and we love that, to like, this is someone that I could actually trust for an end game. Like this person's really going to be with me and ride it with me because that's what he's doing for Jorge. Because even when people were like, we should target because like he's rooting for Jorge and Jorge might come back. Like I was like, I don't care. Like this is what it is. Like yeah.
Well, I said one in my opening speech when Alicia said that the rookie camp viewed me as a potential winner and an underdog, and that made me click into okay, the next steps of the game were laid out for me, and it was different than the game that I initially was gonna set out to do. But the biggest one for me actually was losing Molly and then losing Meg pretty much back to back. They were two of the people I was tightest to in this game. There were people that we had put our full trust in each other. And so losing them changed my game to be more individualistic. Still needing people and still having the relationships, but then suddenly it turned to who can I feasibly get to the end with? Who can I still trust? Where do my relationships lie? Because so much of my game was in the game that the three of us, or the four of us really, had been playing together. And so that to me was the tide change, and caused me to restructure some of my relationships.
Yeah, mine was definitely when Meg went home. I think that there was a lot of fear around that time that the whole Meg, Cam, Ale thing was going to overpower the rest of us stragglers like me and Ty and these people, and these people were like not able to ever get in with that group because they had been together for so long. And I was coming off of your vote where I was basically stuck in a hole where I had to vote for you and allow Meg to stay, who I would have preferred to see go. I'm sorry. But that vote was sort of a turn of the tide for me because of Kevin's extra vote, we unexpectedly had the numbers to vote Meg out, and that sort of shifted the game from that point forward for me.
Good luck.
Thank you, Lily. Molly?
Congratulations. What a deserving group of three here. I'm really proud of all of you. I want to play a game. Are you ready for another challenge? I have to censor it a little bit because I'm a teacher and my mom's probably watching. So we're going to play Screw, Marry, Kill and Survivor Edition. Okay. So in the Survivor game, who are you married to? So who was your closest alliance? Who are you gonna kill? So who was your immediate like throwaway? That was the person. And who would you screw over? Who did you screw over? So one word answer for each, one person answer for each. And I want to start with Dylan because you haven't started yet.
Yeah. I was gonna start. I would marry Kevin. And then
No, were you married to Kevin?
Kevin and I are married. Okay. We came into the game married.
Would you marry him? I would marry him.
Yeah, I would marry Kevin. Yeah. That's why we voted him out. It's simply, it's simply too much. I would, I would kill Alicia. Sorry, love you, girl. And I screwed Cam.
I would say that I would marry Ty. Kevin, I loved you too, but I feel like Ty and I were together for such a long time on that swap tribe and had been through so much that I felt like we were truly like this in the game up until when you went home. I think that, what were the other options? I'm forgetting this game. Kill and screw.
You can say.
I think that if I killed anybody, it was probably Zoe, just because I pushed so hard and I sort of abandoned what we had going on. And to that, I'm sorry, but it was what I needed to do to move forward. And Screw is somebody that I screwed over in the game. Time. Because I knew that you were in danger. I know I'm picking the same person, but I knew you were in danger for a long time, and I knew that you were sort of on borrowed time, and there were chances for me to push to try to keep you, and I chose to not do that, and instead vote you out after. So that's who I screwed over. I could have fought for you.
Ollie?
I married Cam and Meg. We had a polyamorous thing, I guess, going on. And Zoe, I guess. I was married to a lot of people. I think it was one of the. I was married to them. I think I was very obviously with them for a long time. Them leaving definitely opened up my game, but I was undyingly loyal to them. That was just the way that it was. I screwing. What was
Screwed
it?
over and
Killed Katie. Again, I put all my cards in there really fast. I never let any other plan kind of like, I was like, nope, we should just do Katie. So I think I just unfortunately murdered Katie. And then screwed over a lot of people. Justin, Maya, from the jury. Um, Kind of Alicia and Ty, I think, are the people that I screwed over the most. Me and Ty early said like, we're gonna look out for each other. We never made anything super solid. I think we both were like, we're gonna like look out for each other until like we can type of thing. But I do think we had more trust than probably there could have been. It just kind of never blossomed to anything more because I had so many other things already. And Alicia and I, very early, I wanted to work with Alicia, and when she came back, I found out like that
please
she
wrap
was.
up, Ollie.
I'll finish it later, but
We'll talk later.
yeah, we'll talk later. Yeah.
Thank you guys for that.
Thank you.
Meg, come on up.
Hey, how you guys doing? So we all of us, I mean, some of you have met each other before, but all of us met each other for the first time 4 days ago. And whoever we are in the big bad world versus who we are in this game is maybe the same, maybe different, who knows? I'm interested in hearing from each one of you how you think you are perceived and versus how you are perceived. Or sorry, how you think you are perceived versus how you actually are. What do we have wrong?
Who starts?
Let's go with Drew.
I asked my family before I came in, I was like, what do you think is my biggest weakness? And they said, you're really not young, and I think you come off really naive. And at least initially in the game, I feel like that might have been the perception. I don't really know if I was taken seriously at the start of this game. There were tribals where sometimes I would just be standing there and people would be like in a group of two, in a group of three, and I was by myself and I was like, don't you want to talk to me? Like, I have valid things to say too. And I think that's where some of those people were wrong, especially in the pre-merge, like Kevin, for example. I felt like I made a lot of attempts to like say, listen, I really want to work with you. And I was getting nothing in return from him. And that's when he ended up throwing out my name. I was like, you're missing an opportunity here, because I think maybe he had one view of me when really I believe something completely different. And I feel like I genuinely saw a future with him and wanted to work with him. And by extension into the merge, I think maybe I did come off as maybe not as big of a player and a little bit naive, but I just want you to know that everything I did was extremely intentional. Even if I wasn't being flashy at every single step of the way, I was doing it for a reason. So yeah.
I think I'm perceived to be a sort of fun, caring, and maybe a little like ridiculous person and or a Disney adult. But and I think sometimes that comes at the expense of me actually being taken seriously, which is a deep insecurity of mine. And I think I also maybe present a little bit more self-deprecating than I actually am. And I think I'm actually a steelier person than I let on. So I think the difference between how I'm perceived and how I am is that though I'm open with my emotions and crying a lot of the time, or making jokes or cracking it. I actually have more nerve and more belief in myself than I let on, which was something that I think I learned about myself in this game.
Could you please remind me of the question again?
Sure. No, and I phrased it poorly.
My hearing aid, I think, I just changed it. I think this one doesn't have batteries. I'm just having a little bit of trouble, so I'm gonna probably ask people to repeat themselves. I'm really sorry.
So the question is, we all came into this game not knowing each other as players, and we all have perceptions about each other. How do you think you were perceived in the game, and what would you like to correct about that? Who are you actually in contrast to how you were perceived?
Yes. I think in the game I was perceived in multiple things. I think I'm a very multifaceted person. I think I was probably perceived a little bit more snaky than I really am. I definitely lied a lot more than I do in my real life. I definitely screwed over people that's not something that I do in my real life. Like I said in my beginning speech, like I'm someone who's very loyal, very straightforward, very direct. I tried to do that as much as I could, but in this game, I found out that you can't do that, right? Like with everything going on, being so straightforward is a recipe for disaster. Um, and I think I was perceived a little bit snakier than I think I am in real life, or like who I am as a person, but it's who I have to be in this game, and that's why I had to separate the personal from the gameplay. I think I probably was also perceived a lot more emotional than I am because I definitely had a lot of emotional moments. I'm not a very emotional person in real life. I struggle a lot with like showing my emotions, naming my emotions, and doing all that. And in this game, I couldn't do that. I had way too many vulnerable moments for my personal comfort, and like it was beautiful. I appreciate everyone who was there for that, but like it also made me really uncomfortable, and I had to deal with that discomfort while also being in this game and being like, fuck, I just like did something that I'm super uncomfortable with, and like I need to be like, oh yeah, it's great, right? But that's not something that I am normally when I'm like fed and all that. So yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Meg. Alicia, I'm going to have you use the mic to make sure everyone can hear.
Thank you.
Hi. Y'all are lucky I didn't go on a streak. Congratulations. I love you all. My question is, why do you deserve to win as opposed to the two people sitting next to you? We'll start with Dylan.
Great.
And then we'll go Drew and Ollie.
I think I deserve to win because I played with everyone. I really played with everyone. There were times where I was working with pretty much everybody that's on the jury, while also maintaining those relationships and making sure that up until the last votes, when the numbers were so small, that they didn't feel betrayed by me when the hammer came down on their side. I came into this game as a rookie and completely unsure of myself. Um, and I'm leaving this game knowing that I have the tools now to survive, but also to play a game that is open, honest, and and uh, and forward with people. Uh, I think I deserve to win because I was playing all the time. And I was always knowing where all the information was, and I was always using that to keep me alive, but also to protect the people I cared about.
And just to add a little clarification, like Drew was also getting a lot of information and Ollie
Yes.
also worked with everyone else.
Yes.
So why should you win as opposed to them?
Great. I should win as opposed to them because though Ollie was working with a lot of people, he wasn't moving votes with the orange side as hard as I was. And Drew and I worked a lot in tandem together. But the difference between me and Drew is that I drove a lot of our final decisions when it came down to it. When Drew said, I want to be on your side, I want to make sure that we're on the same number, and so that fell onto me. So there were times where I was taking on a leadership role, which I think is also exemplified in the challenge, where like everyone was blindfolded and we raced right on through that. So I think I actually took on more leadership qualities than before.
Thank you. Drew?
I'll just start with Dylan. I want to clarify that when I was doing stuff like that, it was because I didn't trust you. I
Oh.
wanted to be with you. I wanted you to keep me in the game. That was part of my plan. But you had done a lot of things that kind of screwed me over in
Yeah,
the
I never
situation.
trusted you either. I'm surprised you thought we were together because I never trusted you.
Right, my perception
I
of
love you. Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't think we were. I said most people. You were not
Gotcha.
part of that most people. We
Right.
definitely
And you
100%
I
did
love
not work
you.
together, and I did not work with KD. And we had the blue orange thing, but it fell right before
Yeah.
anything happened. Just an addendum. I don't mean all of you, not a blanket statement. Most of you.
Got it. Go ahead, Drew.
Yeah. I mean, my perception of Dylan's game, and I'm not speaking for anybody else, but I found it really messy, and I appreciate and I respect that your emotions came into the game. But for my game, it oftentimes would scramble stuff up. He would tell me right before the vote, like, look, I'm not comfortable with this. We have to do Louis, for example. And I had to sort of deal with that. And as a result, I didn't always trust you. There were times when I was completely like, where is Dylan's head at? Is he gonna like get in his head and change his mind at the last minute? And I mean, as a result, I had to approach him with a lot of caution. You were never my number one. My number one was Kevin. My number one was Ty. And yet you were still the swing vote that kept me in the game. So, I mean, the way that I was talking to you, I feel like it made it seem like we were closer than we were. And it kept me safe. So that's why I did it.
That's great. I would just like to add an addendum that was just said, which is that I was often the swing vote.
Sure.
And then with Ale, I think that I was a part of dismantling a lot of his allies, especially early on into the merge. I think that my voting record speaks for itself in a little ways because I voted correctly every single time, and that's something that these two can't say about their games. So while yes, we were all getting information, I had the right information more often than they did, and I was able to use that to be on the right side of the vote every single time.
Cool. I didn't need to vote correctly every time. I did not. I was not the target. I don't think at all. Please correct me. I was not the target, right? Like I had enough relationships with people that would change my name whenever someone would whisper my name. Someone would say, "Let's do something else," right? I did that for people as well. In terms of Dylan, a couple of times that Dylan's name came up, I was like, "No, let's do something else." Like Dylan, I at some point I remember who I was like, "Oh, Dylan's not gonna win at the end," right? I didn't believe that, but I said that so that the target wouldn't be in Dylan, right? Like I was able to do that because of the relationship that I formed with people, which I think neither of them can say. Both of their names came up multiple times and they were considered heavily. Anytime that my name came up, it was squashed almost immediately, as far as I know, right? I had the relationships to do that. I knew, like, I might not have voted correctly. I knew that Cam was getting votes. I unfortunately knew that Meg was getting votes. I didn't know there was an extra vote. I didn't know that someone else was going to turn, but I knew where votes were going and who was going to get votes. I tried my best to protect my people. It didn't work. That doesn't mean that I wasn't aware or didn't have the right information. That doesn't mean that I didn't have control, and that doesn't mean that I didn't have the stronger relationships. Because at the end of the day, I was not in danger. I was able to get here with what, 2 votes against me? That's it. And when it was Kevin, they decided to keep me over Kevin unanimously, right? When it was Molly, I don't know what you guys were gonna do. Please let me know. But either I had the idol or I was not going. I was not in danger this entire game, and they cannot say that. That's it.
Very
Okay, I have one quick clarifying question. That was all beautiful. Drew, we hear you claiming the vote out for Zoe. Did you have the numbers to vote out Zoe before I pulled out the idol, or did Zoe go home because I played the idol?
It was close. It was the rookies would ultimately decide it because I know that Ty and Louis were on board and it ended up being 6 votes for her. I don't know if those were the 6 that ultimately voted for her, but going into the vote, it was going to be the 6 of us, the rookies and Ty and Louis. I remember that you and Molly were kind of wavering, which is why Kevin and I pulled each other aside and we looked at each other and we said, like, this is a moment where we can push and possibly put a target on our backs, or we can just allow you to go. And I wasn't ready for you to go. I felt like you could be a shield for a little bit longer. You created a great smokescreen and a great reason, but we were planning on whispering at Tribal regardless, or at least I was, to try to get Zoe out.
Can I say one little thing? This is not stepping on this. When you pulled out your paper with the idol, I looked at the paper and I saw that it wasn't active anymore because it said it on the bottom line. It doesn't work when you're voted out.
I didn't say I kept it from when I voted out. I said I found it again, but you're right, it was fake.
Yeah. But I guess I saw that and I knew it was fake and I still put down Zoe's name. I wanted to say that to you while I had the opportunity to say it. Yeah.
Can you quickly say, were you planning on voting me before for idol play or not?
I will say that I was not planning on voting you
Thank
before the idol
That's
play.
what we needed to know because none of you were planning on voting her before I played that.
Yeah.
Like there was
Thank
no
you.
need for that.
Yeah.
I feel like there needs to be ownership over that.
No, it's just it's helping clarifying.
Yeah.
No, totally. I don't take any power or responsibility for the Zoe vote. I just that was not my move at all, but I was a number in it.
Cool. Thank you.
Do you have what you need? Yeah.
Did you have something to say, Ty? Or
It's Ty's turn.
oh, okay. Okay.
Drew, you were planning on voting Zoe going into that, right? Or wasn't until that idol?
It was still up in the air. I was waiting for confirmation from the group that that's what we were doing, which is why I was going to whisper. I think he wasn't planning on it because it wasn't completed yet. I mean, we were still going to talk about it, but that sort of pushed it towards completion.
Is everyone okay with this?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It makes no sense for yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ty, you're up.
Hello. I'm going to respectively disagree that I think it does make sense. I think that I think that that answer was fine. So I'm going to switch my question from what we had discussed before because I think this and I can't take credit for this because I heard it from someone else, but I think it will help better answer something for us. We've talked a lot about moves you've driven, moves that have been your impact move. I would like to hear something that maybe something you wanted to do, something you thought you should do, and a time you held back and did not make that move, and that helped you get to this point.
Who's gonna start?
Let's start with Ale, then Drew, then Dylan.
Sorry. One move that I wanted to do, but I didn't.
Yeah, maybe something you thought would, like, your inclination or gut was saying that's the right move to make. You held off or did something different than you initially wanted to do, and that helped you get here.
I have two, I think.
Okay.
One, when Jessica left, before I wanted to do Molly because I was scared of the 2-2, right? I love Molly, I love Dark 4, but I was also really scared if we lost again, what the fuck is gonna happen, right? Like, what's gonna happen there? I talked to Meg, and it was decided that Meg decided. She told me, like, hey, I think we need to vote out Jess. The four of us are gonna win this challenge. She was completely correct, right? Like, I think my gut said, let's get rid of Molly first and don't risk myself in that situation because we're so close to merge. Meg was completely right. Meg said, let's do Jess. Helped me, made a beautiful friendship with Molly. Loved working with Molly. Everything that happened was great, but that was not my initial gut. The other one, when Cam left, I had a really big struggle. Alicia put it in my head that everyone saw me as a lackey for Cam and Meg. And I had this big thing of like, what happens if I don't vote Cam? Am I going to be seen as a lackey? Like, I thought that at some point I might have to do something there so that I didn't get here. And everyone's like, you shock, you're a lackey, you didn't do shit. And I was like my brain said, you need to vote out Cam. But my heart did not let me vote out Cam because I loved him so much. And I knew that that decision was going to be something that either was going to be respected or everyone's going to hate. But at the end of the day, I couldn't do it, right? But I think logically, I thought that that might earn me some points, and I decided to trust the rest of my game and not just earn points for like a move that I didn't need to make at that point, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think for me it was the decision to vote out Meg. It was up in the air for a little bit. It was like, should it be Dylan? Should it be Ale? There was sort of a conversation had about which one was the right one. And Kevin asked me when he brought me into the plan at first, right before Tribal, he was like, I'm going to use my extra vote this round. I'm asking you, do you want to switch the vote for Meg? And I really heavily considered seeing if we could switch it to a different person because I thought there might be a future with Meg. And this was when I didn't really trust you and I wasn't sure if I had a future with Dylan. But I'm glad that I didn't do that because obviously building this relationship with Dylan ended up being really helpful for me in the future of the game. And I think that I invested in the correct relationship there. So I'm satisfied with that choice. And I just want to clarify the Zoe vote. I didn't want that to be a point of contention in my game. It was a live tribal. I'm never claiming that I was the reason. But for multiple rounds, I was pushing Zoe's name. And in that vote, I was continuing to push really hard. That's all I'm trying to say when I claim credit for that. That I was intending for Zoe to go and that she went. Just a point of clarification.
Um, yeah. A move that I entertained was when it was between Louis and Meg to go home. And the move I had to play through my game because at that point, so many people had approached me about Meg, Cam, and Ollie having an alliance. And if I had done that move, it would have been I would have A shifted an alliance and B it would have been a move on my resume that this person who had been a threat all around camp had finally gone home. But when I walked through all of the steps that how that would negatively impact my game, um, it outweighed the negativity and the emotional cost that was voting out somebody who was a queer Latina person that I did not want to vote out. So that was a move that I thought I could have made, and I heavily considered. I don't know that there's necessarily a move that I wished I had made instead because I'm here, and because my relationships led me here, and I have played a game where win or lose, it was all built around my relationships, messy or not. It was enough to carry me here.
Thank you. Congratulations, y'all. Very proud of all of y'all.
Thank you, Ty.
All right, Cameron.
I would like to do one really quick question and then one normal question, if that's okay. I'm just making
Really
it longer. This morning, we all gave confessionals and we were asked, what is your ideal final three? What did you say?
Just the answers for this one.
It was this.
What did you say?
This.
Not this.
I want, honestly, if this is for real what you wanted, sure, but
I said Dylan, myself, and Kevin.
cool.
Yeah.
Okay, now pretend it's a final two or whatever. You're on the jury. Who do you pick out of your opponents to win and why?
That's a fun one. I'll go first. I will pick Drew. And I am picking Drew because her and I, as some of this I'm learning on this council, played games that were sort of in tandem and step with each other, but were also consistently conflicting. And I think that she also did a really phenomenal job playing what I will like lovingly refer to as the sort of like floaters game, where she was the only person. She's the only person from her merged tribe that is here. And I think that's a testament to her strength and her resilience.
Yeah, I would vote for Dylan. And that's because I have worked more closely with Dylan. I've been with him for a longer period of time. I feel like I see his game a lot more closely. And a lot of the things that we did are similar. And I respect those moves, obviously, because I made some of the same ones. I think that there's a lot to be said about how close each of us were and how much we experienced each other's games. And that's going to influence who we want to vote for at the end. And as much as I love Ale, we joked a lot about how we just weren't always on the same page. So if it came down to the two of them, I would vote for the one that I understood a little bit more.
I also would vote for Dylan. I don't think Drew's game was too flashy. I'm learning a lot right now, which is great. Not to invalidate her game at all, but I don't know how much of it is embellishment and how much of it is actual fact. I saw Dylan's game closely. Um, Dylan and I played pretty close together since the swap, and I think I understand his game a little bit more, and I think his answers have shown that a little bit more in terms of like what he actually has done because I've seen those things.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cam. And lastly, Kevin.
First off, congrats. You guys have been killing it this final tribal. We're almost there. So, like, drive it home, regardless of how you're feeling right now. Like, drive it home. Votes are still in the air. I think you've been talking a lot about macro gameplay of the big strategy and all of these big flashy moves that were made. I'm interested more in your micro gameplay. What were some of these subtle ways in which you either, helped drive a move or helped kind of change the perception of yourself? And to give an example of what I mean by a subtlety, I think Ale gave a great one earlier of trying to help out, like fill up people's water bottles. Like I think that's the beauty of Survivor is some of those small little things do add up. So whether it was trying to change how you were viewed or whatever it may be, but just some inspiration there. We'll start with Drew.
I think mine is just my perception. I mean, I was always aware of it in the conversations that I had with people. I talked a little bit about like the flow of information and how chaotic it tended to be. And when I talked to people, I was trying not to immediately delve into like hardcore strategy. I would like ask how we're doing, ask how our relationship is, joke about the position that we're in. And I mean, that was all lighthearted, but in a way, it was trying to be a little disarming and break the ice. And maybe that's what's leading to this narrative that I was a floater, because the people that worked with me really closely would know that I was like a hardcore gamer. I was having strategy. I was very much in a lot of these conversations that were going on, and maybe this is something that caused that to not be perceived by the rest of you. But I would just urge you to maybe look at the things that I'm saying in a different way. And I genuinely believe that I played a pivotal role in a lot of things that happened this season. I'm not claiming to be the main one running it. I don't think anybody can claim it, but I think it's my voting record proves that I at least knew where they were going and I was pushing them in a way that would benefit me.
I'm gonna answer yours with like the thing that was fun for me, that was a game move, which was like being ridiculous in challenges. I wanted to endear myself to people and to sort of this whole experience can be so this that I knew one of the things that I had to contribute is to bring it more like this. I wanted to play a game that was like joyful and celebratory. And so, from singing on the thing or like shouting poetry or the like what rim job line on the pole thing. Like I was always trying to bring a little bit of my like goofy self energy into it, which I think endeared it was intentional, and it also endeared people to me. And so I'm gonna say like that's my micro gameplay was like getting to know people. Like the first thing we said when we aligned was like we just have the same sense of humor, and that to me was like the thing that we could carry on.
I mean, you said one of the things that I did, because I said it, which is great. But I think another thing that is important is identities. I'm a Latino immigrant. Regardless of how you feel, there are a lot of preconceived notions and preconceived things about my identities, right? Latinos, regardless, are seen as aggressive, they're seen as assertive, we're seen as someone who can be really sneaky, really underhanded. Immigrants, same. There's a lot of mistrust for two of my main identities that I'm representing really proudly just by wearing this fucking shirt. I knew that I had to be a little bit more. I allowed myself to be emotional, which I have said absolutely hated. I allowed myself to be more emotionally vulnerable, allowed myself to get to know people deeper and actually make those connections because I knew that there was something about it that whether you think that way or not, in the back of your head, that is always going to be there because in this country, that is the perception of a Latino man and an immigrant. I needed to combat that by allowing myself to be vulnerable, by allowing myself to be caring, by doing a lot of things like that were more like nurturing, which is my nature, right? But I needed to show it a little bit more boldly because I did not want those stereotypes to suddenly be like, well, especially after the two votes over here that I was pretty aggressive with, I did not want to suddenly be like the aggressive Latino that is just running things and is being bossy and is being all these things. So I had to pull back. I knew that I needed to do that. I knew that I needed to like step back, be a little nurturing, grab waters, do all these little things, and just allow myself to not be seen as a potential stereotype because of the perception of Latino men in this country.
Yeah, beautiful answers, all three of y'all.
Thank you.
Good luck.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. You've had a lot of time to share your games, so we're going to limit you to a quick 2-minute wrap up here, and we're going to go in the reverse order that we started in. So, Drew, you were going to start.
I feel like I've said a lot about my game, and it's going to eventually just come down to whether or not you respect it. And I respect that. I mean, you all have your own criteria for how you're voting, and I feel like I've given you as much information as I can. to prove that I was playing this game. I hope there's no doubts about that, that I was playing this game hard from the minute I got here. And I was battling my fears and my anxieties, and I think we saw that a little bit. I mean, I was so unconfident in some of these challenges, and Ale especially was like, Drew, you need to be confident in yourself. You're way better at these challenges than you think you are. And something that I found out I'm able to do is that I'm really calm when I'm under pressure. I solved these puzzles that I'm not good at puzzles, and magically it was like I had tunnel vision. I was like, this piece goes here, this piece goes here. And in doing that, I was able to win the puzzle challenge. And then the final immunity, it's like this very precise balancing challenge. And I was able to lock in and get it done. And I'm worried that I was doing the same thing in some of these votes. And maybe that's a different frame to put on it. Sometimes I'm very calm in these pressure situations, and maybe I'm not showing enough emotion, enough vulnerability. And maybe that's why you're not seeing the game that I'm playing if you're not considering voting for me. So I just want to end things by saying that this has been really transformative for me. I've learned that I need to start being confident in myself and my abilities, regardless of whether I win here. I've proven myself in so many ways, and coming from, you know, I just came out like a year ago. I'm still figuring my life out. I'm still conquering my fears. And to get all the way here to the end of the game, to have lasted every single day, I know that it's something that I need to be so proud of. And I haven't gotten emotional this whole game, but sitting here in this like culmination of everything I've worked for, it is very emotional for me. And I think that I would just like to at least acknowledge that and scream it into the sky that I need to feel this way every day of my life and not just here in this moment.
Hi. Thank you all for listening to all of this. I think I played a sort of fun game. I rooted my entire game in everyone. I wouldn't have been able to play the game that I played without every single person, regardless of if I was working with them. Um, I just wouldn't have been able to do it. And so, in that way, I sort of felt like during this game, I was sort of like the player for the people, where I boosted relationships. I was constantly boosting morale. I was always trying to start a fire, literally, and sometimes like in the figurative game sense, which might be perceived as some mess, but to me, it was calculated for what I felt I needed to wind up here to talk to all of you. You know, I said this at the top, but like I didn't think that I could do that. I really, really didn't. My friends try to tell me not to do this, and I've come out of the other side much more confident in who I am. Uh, I've struggled with my body. I haven't even looked in a mirror, and I don't even care. And that's something that I'm gonna have to like work through. I'm leaving here with friendships, including people that I betrayed, and including people that I worked with until the very end, and I almost fell, and I just think I did so openly. I didn't hide who I was, and it's maybe like the first time in my life. Wow, yep, it's maybe the first time in my life that I'm actually like not hiding who I am, in a game setting like this.
I want to start by saying I'm really proud of both of you and your games. I'm really proud of us for making it this far. And whatever happens, best of luck to both of you. Hi. I think I've explained my game in every way that I can. I think I got to know most of you really deeply, really good. You know who I am as a person, I hope, and I hope you got to see who I am as a player. What I want to focus about right now is my charity. This is for charity. I'm playing for undocumented students here. I want this money for them. I don't give a fuck about. I give a fuck about the victory, but like, I want this money for undocumented students. $1,000 can sponsor 5 DACA applications. I want this money because how much change can we do for these fucking students? I want to win this because these kids that are watching me right now, that I see me play right now, deserve this fucking money. And I'm not taking away from either of your charities, but this is a cause that means a lot to me. These are students that I know personally. These are kids that don't have opportunities. In this country right now where we are, undocumented people are treated as third-class citizens. They are not someone who has the rights to do many things. They can sometimes not get jobs, sometimes they cannot feed themselves because they cannot find housing and they don't have that money. They have a lot of struggles, and this money can change so many fucking lives. I want you to vote for the best game player, but I also want you to hear why this means so much to me. Because this is not about me. This is about that. Oh my god, I wasn't gonna cry. This is so stupid. This is about them. This is about the undocumented disorders that I'm fighting for, and I really want to win for them. That's it. That's okay. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you to each of our final three. I think we got a lot of information there. A well-earned round of applause. And for the final time, we will go vote. As a reminder to the jury, you are voting for a winner. We are going to start from the back. We'll start with you, Katie.
All right, this game is now in the jury's hands, and they will be going off to the voting booth to vote for a winner. While they go ahead and do that silently, I will be joined by a familiar face. You know him definitely from either the live recap show or our season 2 winner.
Hi, everybody.
Sorry. I'm still 5 days in and I'm still figuring this part out. So yeah, so we're gonna do a little, why does this look like this? Sorry. Hi, so we're gonna do a little tea time like we have all season long. Just gonna discuss everything we heard, talk about the jury questions, talk about everyone's answers, and just have a little chit chat rather than, 20 minutes of silence. Because we'd rather,
So this is my favorite part of the season.
I
We get
know.
to go over the accomplishments of our finalists, kind of talk a little bit more in depth about their answers and analyze them a little bit. So it's exciting.
Yeah. And we have set ourselves up nicely in the sun, so we might want to move to the shade. As we know, I'm a big fan of it. So we're just going to settle on in. And yeah. Alex said, we didn't see the jury's faces during the answers. Who do you think was getting nods of encouragement from the jury?
Great question.
Great question, because I didn't see it because I was live streaming.
Yes. I think everybody had some answers they were getting nods from. And I would say there were some that you could tell the juries weren't satisfied with their answers. So I think it was a mix for everybody. There were definitely times when I think answers were very direct and answered the actual question. And there were some answers I think contestants kind of skirted around a little bit. So I think it's a mixed bag for all three of them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, sometimes I saw it and sometimes I didn't. But, just to quickly touch on that before we get into it, like I saw Meg M at the end of her question kind of purse her lips and walk away. So I'm not sure that everyone was entirely satisfied. I can tell that it almost was like a live tribal again, but from the jury perspective.
It is, yeah.
And so it almost felt like maybe if they weren't satisfied in the moment, eventually down the line, they became satisfied, hopefully. So
Exactly. Hopefully they got their answers or along the line if they didn't get it themselves. I will say, a jury, sometimes they're looking for a very specific answer for you to say something very specific in order to get their vote. And sometimes you don't know what exactly they're looking for. And that might be why some of them walked away a little unsatisfied because they were hoping you would say something to kind of acknowledge your gameplay, but you didn't necessarily get there.
Right, because not everyone is a mind reader. And so, of course, as a final tribalist, you want to have that perfect answer. You want to answer the question satisfactorily. Maybe it isn't what they're hoping to hear, but you're hoping to say it true. But sometimes that can be really tough.
Exactly. So we jump into our finalists and kind of some of the themes that we saw?
Absolutely.
All right. I think we should start with how Katie started the tribal, because I think that kind of set the tone for the tribal.
We can. Can we hop to the opening statements first?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. So it's kind of interesting. I almost felt like the order that they went in was almost like a reverse order of how the momentum went throughout the tribal. I think Ale going first might have thrown him off a little bit. He focused a lot of time on kind of who he was as a person and the preparation before the game even started, and unfortunately ran out of time before we got to actually hear about most of his experience in the game. He kind of cut it off still in the pre-merge phase, hadn't even made it to the jury portion of the game, and so kind of was we're we're not getting a lot here. I hope he can, you know, pick it up more in tribal. But as tribal went along, he really seemed to find his stride and really gain more confidence and was better able to answer questions more succinctly and like kind of explain them also more thoroughly, but like you know, yeah, so that was interesting to
Very
see.
interesting, yes.
Dylan went second. I kind of felt like his vibe was similar throughout, kind of like in the middle. There wasn't any like, there wasn't like a dull roar, but there wasn't like a
bang.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
huzzah, like, yes.
And I thought Zoe did an incredible job at the beginning of her opening statement. Or I'm sorry, not Zoe. Jesus Christ. Drew. Sorry. I thought Drew did a really incredible job of laying out her gameplay in that opening statement. She focused a little bit on like who she was coming in, but then really, you know, talked through her gameplay, talked through some moves and choices she had to make. And so I was like, wow, like she's the only one that really like laid it all out there right to start. But then I felt like as time went on, she was a little more focused on like trying to find that perfect answer and maybe not knowing exactly how to get there. And so it almost felt like she backed off a little and wasn't quite as like confident in every answer as she should have been, because I mean, she played an incredible game. They all played incredible games. Like, I'm so excited because like no matter who is about to win this, I'm gonna be like jumping up and down. So you might like see a little shake on the
phenomenal. Yeah, and I wrote down, I think Drew had probably the strongest opening. Just she was so concise and like, this is my game, this is how I played. Very confident, was like boom, boom, boom. Which was super impressive because going into this tribal, I think she is the game that I had the most questions about because she's been in an interesting position most of the day, whereas the other two I felt like were in a very comfortable spot for a lot of the day.
I agree. I think she came upon a lot of crossroads. She had a lot of tough decisions to make. She would align herself with many people, but whereas like Dylan kind of got to hide a little bit more and really only had to reveal who he was truly with at like the final 5 vote. And Ale really so well insulated, as he talked about early on in the FTC, like didn't really have to like cut people out, like still got to have so much going on. But Drew almost constantly would form a bond, form a connection, and then be like, oh God, like, do I have to do it? Like, even starting back in pre-merge with the Kevin H vote followed by Brad, you know, choosing like, am I going to stay you know, rookie strong, or am I switching over to the vets that maybe I'll get a little further, and then like switched over to those vets and then had to kind of like cut them out too and then like go back to orange. So it was like she was constantly creating those relationships and then having to really choose like which way am I going, which is really hard. I wish she had talked a little bit more about that because that's so hard to navigate, and she did an incredible job.
Exactly. Perfect. So is that all 3?
Yeah.
All right, so Katie, I think, set the tone for this at the start. She walked in and said, we are at a business meeting.
Yeah.
All this lovey-dovey stuff, done. And I think that's super telling because I think the last few tribals, you know, it's emotional when you get down to the final group of people. But sometimes the jury is like, this is great, but we want to know how the game is being played. We want to know what the moves are. We want to know where you're at. So me personally, I love that tone kind of coming in because I think sometimes you can get kind of caught up in the emotion of everything when they're really just looking for specific answers.
Absolutely. And especially because so many of these votes were unanimous votes like throughout the game, and you might have thought like, oh, like no one's doing anything, but like people were doing everything, every vote. There's a reason votes were unanimous, because whoever was being voted out unanimously, that was not the right move for many people. You know, that couldn't have been the right move for every single person in the game. It was the wrong move. So who was driving that because it was their right move? Sorry, I'm just going to plug in my phone so we don't die. Will you push that side of my phone against this to just... Yes, thank you. All right, cool.
Perfect.
And we're back. What was I saying? Wow, really lost the plot there. Oh, the queen question. Yes. So, wow, I already blanked. I'm
That's all
glitching.
good. Do you want to just kind of jump in?
Yeah.
I think maybe we should just kind of talk about all the contestants since we don't know how long everyone's going to take.
Sure.
Let's start with Ale. We'll kind of go down the line.
Sure.
So I have some. I thought Ale did. You talked a little bit in the beginning. He started a little bit slower and kind of picked up the pace as tribal went on. Some of the notes that I took really were I love that he started that. He was like, I needed to give myself permission to play this time because he hadn't given himself permission previously. And I think when you come into a game like this, it's really great to give yourself that permission because it's a game. Like, we're all here to have fun. We all love Survivor. And so I was really excited for him to say that and kind of talk about maybe where he stumbled in the past playing CYS and how he adapted it coming into this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's interesting. A lot of the players talked about the human moments. It's such a human game, this game. Like, everyone is like out there living their human lives. They have things that they bring into the game with them. And so to kind of be able to parse through and be like, what are the best parts of me that I get to showcase and like love about myself in this game and like show people this is who I am? And what are some maybe things that I love but can't use in this like cutthroat game? And then what are some things that maybe I'm not confident about, and wow, like here I am learning and growing and like proving myself wrong about like these doubts. And I love this game. And I love every year like the players, you know, kind of getting to talk through that. So love that Alec gave himself permission to play the game.
Yeah, and even with the permission to play the game, everybody talked about a mistake they made in the game. And so he talked about like getting up in that tribal council and grabbing the idol, which was an iconic moment at the tribal council. But I think it goes to show like no matter how many times you play this game, you're gonna learn something new or like think about what could I have done differently to kind of make that a better move for myself.
Absolutely. And what I thought was really cool in this final tribal is these players were so aware. Certain things that we would talk about during our tea time. So like, for example, the fact that Ale went ahead and like played that idol, we talked about the fact that like, hey, like now he truly doesn't know if he had those people or not. He truly doesn't know if the vote was Molly or him. And so it was really cool that he was able to identify that. Similarly, Drew did kind of the same thing, and I'm blanking on what it was, but when we get to her, I'm sure I'll remember. So
Perfect. Yeah, the other things I just want to highlight, you know, Ali was really passionate about his charity at the end. I think that was a very emotional way to end everything. And I think you could tell it hit the juries in a certain, or jury members in a certain way. And when you're on the jury, you're really looking for that, what's that one thing that's going to set you apart? And I think Ale may have hit that for a few of our jury members in that moment. So it'll be interesting to see like how they take that into account as well.
Absolutely.
Cool. I want to highlight some stuff from Dylan. So a lot like Ale had a very emotional game and also a lot of really deep connections to the game, which I do wish he had talked about a bit more, because as we kind of talked through the strategies today, he was somebody who was so interwoven in all of the strategic plans because of his relationships. And I didn't necessarily see it highlighted as much, but his game was phenomenal. And Dylan, in a lot of the same ways, had those relationships as well. So it was really cool to kind of hear Dylan talk about those relationships that he had and how he used those to propel himself forward in the game. Let's see what else. He talked about the Molly and Jessica vote. I thought that was super interesting because he had such a choice at the time. So if you remember back a few days ago, he had a crossroads where he could have voted out Jessica or he could have voted out Molly. If he had voted out Jessica or Molly, it would have been a 3-1 situation, and he would have kind of put himself into a better position. So I thought it was really interesting to kind of hear how he recognized like maybe that was the wrong move, and I trusted Meg, and she picked the right decision. So a little bit off from this.
And we're still talking about Ale there, right?
Sorry, Dylan.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry, that was Ale. Yeah.
Oh,
right,
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. It's like this is like, all sounding like Ale, because I know Dylan wanted
it's been
to.
A long day.
No, all good.
Yes. Let's see. I loved that Dylan made the theme of the leap of faith. What did you think of that?
I thought it was really cool. I thought Dylan also, you know, was in so many different alliances, had so many different groupings, but how do you know, who to move forward with? And how do you know that, like, if you're trying to get every group together, like he probably was, like whispering to all the different groups, like, hey, let's do this, let's do that. You have to like then hope that like you have enough social capital to influence the game, and that you have, enough connections to make what you want happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also love that he talked about,
Oh, we're waving. Oh, they already was back. Oh my God, that was so fast.
All right, should we just highlight Drew real quick?
Yes.
All right, so Drew I think did an amazing job explaining her game. Phenomenal. I think it was really fun for Drew to kind of call out Dylan and Ale on what they didn't do great. I was like, ooh, spicy, drop the tea. So she called Dylan messy, which I think a lot of the jurors, I saw their reactions and they were kind of smiling and kind of happy that Drew was on the offensive, as well as how she talked about how she dismantled Alejandro's entire alliance. I was like, all right, like go off. That's very impressive. In that she's the only one who voted correctly every single vote. I think that's super impressive. The other two could not claim that. So I think Drew has a lot going for her. I mean, all three of them have a lot going for her, or for them. So yeah, I'm excited to see where this kind of falls.
I am too, and we're being called back, so we're gonna have to rush. But that means we won't have to wait much longer to crown our winner. So, yay! I'm excited. All right. And just so you know, we had like 5 different people like jumping up and down and frantically waving, and we were like, no, because we gotta hype up our girl Drew even more. So
yes, so I'm so excited to see who wins.
Me too.
It's gonna be very close.
Yeah, I'm actually shocked that they voted that quickly. It's like they all
takes a long time,
right? I guess they must have gotten what they needed. I did also love the varied questions the jury asked. They were
phenomenal jury.
Some of the questions you would some of the questions. Sorry, oh, Jesus. Here, will you hold this?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I don't know what's going on over here. I'm gonna reset this though. There we go. No? Okay. This is struggling. I'm sorry for this weird.
Is it the cord off balance?
It's probably the cord. Oh, okay. Sorry that it looked like we were out to sea. Oh, no, it's happening again. Okay, I'll just take the cord off. Yes, sorry, team. Okay. Well, I accidentally highlighted this comment, but I agree with it, so I'm highlighting it again. So there we go. Congrats to all three amazing games. So super excited to crown our winner, and I feel like all of them had to have gotten votes for sure. So yay! Here we go.
Okay, I have the votes. Before I read them, I want to give a sincere thank you to everyone that helped make this a wonderful week. To our amazing volunteers helping out in the hot sun. Very loud applause. Well earned. And a second thank you to our amazing players who really brought it.
Let's go!
We have built an amazing community in just a short time. And lastly, one final thank you to Brandon for putting us on. He hates when I do that.
I know. It's part of the fun. Enough about us. It's all about you three right now. That's
want to
right.
know who wins? All right. Let's get to the vote. First vote, Dylan. Second vote, Drew. Third vote, Ale. That's one vote each. Fourth vote, Drew. Fifth vote, Ale. Sixth vote, Dylan. We're tied again. 2 votes apiece. Seventh vote, Ale. Eighth vote, Drew. 3-3-2 currently, with 2 votes remaining. Ninth vote, Ale. 10th vote, in the winner of Can You Survive?
Congratulations to the winner of Can You Survive Tides of War, Ale! who was the Can You Survive veteran representing our game. What an incredible season. What an incredible final three. All got several votes, all wildly deserving. And a special congratulations again to Ale for winning Can You Survive? Tides of War. For all of you viewers back home, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to watch all these cute little hugs for a few seconds, and then host Brandon and I are going to walk away and announce a few future seasons that I'm sure you guys might want to check out or apply for. So.
You see a lot of
Hugs all around, hugs all around. Congratulations, Ale. All right, and we're just gonna step away from this love fest for a moment. Sorry, and the Hornets are back with a vengeance. They never left. Hi, everyone. I want to thank all of you viewers. Thank you so much for following along here and making this so much fun. I know that all of you have been shouting out who you're rooting for all week long, and the players are going to be so excited to see all the love that you've shown. You were such generous viewers, and we just want to thank you. And we also want to announce a couple things we've got coming up.
Yeah, so we have another game. So if you liked following this season, we have another season coming up in October. It is going to be totally different because the heat is not going to be a factor.
Yeah.
It is going to be cold. So you can watch our live feeds for that October 1st through 5th. We have a totally new cast, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes, and if you're like, oh, a fall moment in Maine where I get to play Survivor and not sweat and maybe shiver instead, if that's your thing, we are always looking for alternates. As you heard, some of this cast was alternates, and you just never know when it might be your time to play. So if you're interested in throwing your hat in the ring for Can You Survive Hunter's Moon, October 1st through 5th, reach out, give us a shout, and we will chat with you.
Yeah, and we also we have some fun stuff.
There's like super hype fanfare. We'll sit a little farther away so you can hear us.
We also have a lot of other things coming up next summer. So we already announced All Stars is going to be happening next summer. We do not have official dates yet, but we are going to have the best players from the first 7 seasons coming back. Is it 7? I think so. Yeah.
7 by Hunter's Moon.
Yeah. So the best players from the first 7 seasons will be back. So if you want to watch it, you might see a few familiar faces from this cast here because they all brought it. And we also are going to announce a newbie season that will be taking place next year. So that is going to be taking place at an undetermined time right now, but it is going to be called District 13, and it is going to be Hunger Games themed. So you can look forward to those applications opening later on in the winter.
Yeah, so if you have not yet played Can You Survive and you saw these players' journeys and you were like, wow, I want to do that, I could totally do that, or wow, I wish I could do that, I don't know that I could do that, but then you saw these players get out and do it and you were inspired, look out on our Facebook page for the announcement for when applications go live for next year's game.
Yes.
And again, thank you again. We always have a lot to look forward to, and we are so excited for you to hopefully join us this fall for Hunter's Moon and next year for District 13 and then All Stars. It's going to be a lot of fun, and again, thank you so much. Incredible season, incredible Final 3, incredible winner. We are so lucky that we get to do this and bring it to you. So thanks again, everyone, for your support, and we will see you in the fall.